Hey, everybody. Welcome to API 3's community call. Today, on the 30th, we have with us Tom Watson today, one of our newest team members, and he's going to be talking with us about API 3 in general a little bit, but mostly about technical writing and his experience there. So would you like to say hi?
Hey, everybody. Good to see
you. He's going to be talking with us, like I said, about technical writing. Just giving an intro on that, kind of how it might be different from other writing that people might be used to seeing or writing themselves. But before that, we're going to kind of recap some recent events that happened at API 3. So we saw the launch of the API 3 powered Chain API. It's an API 3 ecosystem project that makes connecting your own web APIs to Web3 easy. You don't need any coding or anything like that. You don't need blockchain expertise. You can create and run first-party oracles. So that's pretty cool. We also saw Quantumons launch recently, which is another API 3 kind of featuring product. We've got that running QRNG to create some really cool random NFTs. I think that's really nice. You can check that out at quantumon.xyz if you want to see a product using QRNG in action. And Ashar, our developer kind of advocate guy, champion, who has been on the previous call, he hosted a dynamic NFT Mint workshop on the API 3 Discord. And he'll be hosting other developer workshops in the future. So if you are a developer or you're curious about getting into development, you can join our Discord and keep your eyes open for future workshops or get in touch with any of our developers that actually spend quite a lot of time hanging out in the channels there. So ask them questions if you're curious. And Gio from our team will be representing us at APIX 2022. So make sure to head to our Twitter page to see how you can be a part of that. And we got some really good general technical updates from Barak in an article on our Medium page. So if you'd like to read some technical updates and a good summary of that, you can check that out on our Medium page. So yeah, Tom, would you like to kind of give a little bit more of an introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Tom Watson, and I have the most experience in product design and manufacturing, but I've recently gotten into like cryptocurrency through Bitcoin, and after finding out about that technology and what that's doing for kind of like individual freedom. And then looking into smart contracts and how you can move sort of your trust into code. I was super excited to come across API 3 and what y'all are doing, what we're doing to bring data into smart contracts and make them more useful.
Yeah, awesome. And so, like I mentioned, you are our technical writer or one of our technical writers. So would you kind of like to give a brief overview of what technical writing entails for blockchain?
Yeah. So generally, technical writing is about communicating processes in a way that's easy for everyone to understand, which is kind of a unique challenge. And then within blockchain in particular, you're taking those skills and making sure that people understand sort of like the benefits of the technology, how they can use it, how it's applicable to devs, how it's applicable to consumers, how it's applicable to sort of data providers.
Yeah. Because it can be kind of difficult, like especially for people who may not have a lot of experience in blockchain. They want to get started, kind of understanding what it is, understanding the Web3 space and how all that kind of works. It's very hard sometimes when you have people that are the developers in this space or have been in the space for a really long time to understand what people don't know, right? You
Yes.
know, because if you're so deep into a subject, you may not understand how to you may not understand where you were at the beginning of your knowledge journey. So you may not understand how to break it down into a way that people can digest. And I guess that's part of what you do as a technical writer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of a good test of your expertise if at a party you can talk to a random person and get them to understand sort of like the base level. And then bring it up from there and keep it interesting as well.
It's like, how do you explain this to your grandma? And like, she
Yeah,
gets it,
exactly,
right?
right? Like, how many different analogies can you come up with that are like still understandable, right? Um, I think that technical writing is sort of fed by your ability to read and understand other people, right? Like every time you read a different author, you have insight into the way that their mind works and how they think it's most easy to communicate a topic. And so the more people that you can read about the same topic, the better idea you have of sort of what the average is, because you're sort of working with like your own statistical model of what people will understand. Yeah.
Right, right. So I guess I was going to ask, like, what are some challenges you think people might face that are used to doing normal writing, but
Yeah.
not technical writing? I guess we kind of covered one of them at least, but do you have
Yeah.
any more you can think of?
I think that there's a really good sort of anecdote for this, which is when I was in elementary school, um, a teacher challenged the class to give instructions on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I think this is like my first introduction to technical writing because uh, many of the kids at first said, "Oh, yeah, so you just take the peanut butter and put it on the bread." And she was like, "Okay, I'm going to follow this instruction." So she like takes the jar of peanut butter and like puts it on the bread. It's like, "This is what you wanted me to do?" And it was like, oh, wow, wow, wow. We can't assume anything, right? Like
Right.
we need to build like the base, like we were talking about, and then be like, okay, so now that you have this tool, we can use it to understand the next concept. I think that like the common pitfall in technical writing is sort of like building the conceptual blocks too large. So starting small and making sure that you have sort of like a line of content that can bring people up. And then even within that content, you can use kind of like the title, the paragraphs, and then subheadings to prompt people to move to different sections depending on their understanding.
Yeah, and that I think that's a really good way that I've seen articles when you want to go learn about something when they have a lot of subheadings that are like, here's the table of contents. If you already know this chunk, you can just skip
Mhm.
to here. That's a really useful feature when people are writing articles about anything. And I
Yeah,
really like your peanut butter sandwich kind of analogy. When you
thanks.
mentioned that, I thought about one that I had done before that was also like you sit with somebody on the other side of like a screen and you describe an object to them and
Yes,
they're supposed to draw it. And then
absolutely.
you see what they're drawing later and you're like,
Yeah,
oh no. Like,
yeah. So it's like I worked with an engineer for a little bit when I was in skateboarding, doing suspension stuff. And he was like a legit engineer, worked on like, trains and big systems and stuff like that. And he always advised not to engineer in words, but
mm,
technical writing is engineering in words. So you're like kind of like breaking the the right channel to use and being
right.
like, hey, let's see if we can make this work. So it's a really
Yeah.
fun challenge, and it changes depending on the type of concept you're trying to describe. If it's like a physical thing, if it's a you know like a programmatic thing, it's a really fun game that's always evolving.
And I think especially with something like blockchain Web3, there's so much technical jargon that people use. Once you're in the space and you understand what all these words mean, you can read an article that's like, and you don't even realize that it's about 45% words that your average person will never encounter unless they look into crypto.
Yeah,
So, but you're fluent in it. So you understand being a person in the space. But then
yeah,
as a technical writer, you have to step back and say, okay, not everybody understands what a smart contract is. Not
yeah.
everybody understands what a blockchain even is, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, you're working with these concepts, yeah, that most people don't have an understanding of. And so you really have to understand your audience. Like, is this piece going out to like a person you're trying to bring into the space? Are they already in it? How long have they been in it? What do they do in it? Why are they interested in it? And that'll totally change your word choice and yeah, how you structure the piece.
I actually even kind of, when I started out at API 3 to understand the whole thing
Mhm.
more, I actually wrote a piece like talking about first party oracles
Yeah,
and kind of everything about API 3
that's
from a
awesome.
beginner perspective. And it really helped me understand what I was learning about essentially, because you get so many random pieces of information and gather information from a lot of sources that it can be kind of, how did I even get here sort of
Yeah,
thing,
for
with your knowledge. So I
yeah,
think it's really like, and it's something that I've always said as like, if you can teach something, you really understand it.
absolutely.
So I think it's useful for anybody, even if you're not a technical writer, to just sit down and try and explain something to somebody that may not be in the space whatsoever of what you're talking about, whether that be crypto or some
Yeah.
game you play or some topic, and see how much you can break it down and then fill the gaps in your understanding from things they might not understand. So
Yeah, it's cool. Like, it's sort of like in school when you were tasked to write some sort of like research paper or something, like technical writing is that. And if you love learning, technical writing is a really cool profession. Because I understand blockchains generally, but like coming to API 3, it's like this thing is so deep. Like there's the air node system, there's like DAPIs, how do they work together? What are the like design sort of like limitations or features? Like what is it optimized for, right? Like what does this bring? And getting to sort of express that product market fit is really fun.
and that's cool because I think you're going to have opportunities to write a lot of pieces that are, they're for the general crowd that hasn't gotten into crypto yet, and therefore
Mhm.
the crypto convention crowd or something like that, Web3 convention crowd, that it's like,
Mhm.
okay, everybody here pretty much knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So you can write towards that audience or, this audience. And it's kind of like you mentioned you did a product design before.
Mhm.
I do stuff for the graphic design team with
Oh,
API
cool.
3.
Yeah.
And again, it's like understanding the market of the people you're trying to advertise to with graphic design and social media marketing type stuff. You really
Yeah.
have to understand the people that are going to be consuming the
Mhm.
content that you produce.
Mhm.
So, yeah, there's a lot of similarities, I think, in between
Yeah.
the two.
No, it's cool. I think generally understanding design is really helpful for communicating because language itself is a tool. And so it's been designed and refined over generations, right? And like you just have to learn how to master it. And it's a game that is kind of unbeatable since it's always changing. And those are the best games.
I agree. When you look at something that is very large, in subject, or it's continually changing or something like that, that might be
Yeah.
kind of daunting to a lot of people, like, "Oh, how am I ever gonna understand this?" But
Mhm.
to me, I think that's really exciting, that we're constantly learning new things, that there's constantly new things being added to the base of knowledge that you can acquire, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Um,
think that's cool.
there's that concept of like perfection is like sweeping every day or something like that. Like it's constant maintenance, right? And so I think it's fun to be in an industry that is changing so frequently that you really like have to push yourself to stay up to pace.
And speaking of that, you kind of, like, talked about it a little bit. What kind of got you interested in API 3 in the first place?
Yeah, API 3 caught my attention because I was interested in smart contracts and uh, what their applications could be. Like I'm excited by Bitcoin in the sense that it like takes away people's ability to modify the monetary system. And I think that we're seeing in the way that politics is going in America in particular that trusting people to like make sure that laws are applied in the right way, it doesn't always come across fair. And I think that smart contracts as applied to governance of people is kind of like an
Mm.
interesting concept. So the fact that API 3 enables sort of the widest range of data to be fed into smart contracts is cool.
So you must think the DAO thing by extension is kind of an exciting thing as well,
Absolutely. That
right?
was like a total selling point to me. This is the first DAO that I've ever worked with. But I love the way that DAOs empower all of the members to be involved in directing it. Like it's way more of a meritocracy where it doesn't really matter your like age, experience, where you're from, whatever. Like if your ideas are good, they'll gain traction within the community that you're working with, and you can bring it forward, and move forward together.
I think that's another thing that's really excellent about like the Web3 space in general and
Mhm.
just everything that we're building is there are so many varied people working in this industry. It doesn't matter, like you said, how old you are or
Mhm.
who you are or where you came from or anything like that. If you've got a good idea and you build your skills and you can, acquire skills from anywhere, there's a lot of places that, I mean, we even have some developer workshops and stuff like that. So if you look and think, I really want to become a Web3 developer, I want to become somebody that's really involved in the space, there's a lot of ways that you can do that. It's a very information accessible kind of space. So I think that's also exciting.
Yeah, in the information age, which I feel like we're like firmly in, everyone who can get their hands on a computer can access more information than like the library in Alexandria. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if you have a drive, you can teach yourself the skills you need to succeed. And I think DAOs enable those type of people to come together to do great things.
And I like you said, how it's like public,
Mhm.
like here's all the people that are in the DAO. Here's
Mhm.
what they're doing. Here's
Mhm.
all the members. Here we go. We vote, kind
Yeah,
of like
exactly.
company, it's not like a standard company structure where, you've just got all this obfuscation on what actually happens. It's all very transparent.
Yeah, the opacity in other organizations I've been in has been frustrating, and so it's kind of cool that you can just jump on the API 3 forum and be like, "Oh, this is like what this member of this team's doing," and
Mm.
like get an idea of like sort of like what the priorities are and where we're at and where we're going.
I think it's cool. I really want to see more kind of applications of DAOs. Like even maybe, you have a DAO that obviously runs on, blockchain in the Web3 space, but maybe it governs something that's not connected to it or something like that.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
something completely different. So I really, really am excited about DAOs as well because I like the transparency. I like the
Mhm.
availability of information and kind of the, like you said, the meritocracy. It's like, okay, I want to be involved in this. Okay, be involved in it, right?
Yeah,
Like just do it, right?
yeah. Just put some skin in the game. Like it's just like it's not like sweat equity, but just like yeah, meritocracy. Like, oh, I see you're doing work. I see it's good. Cool. Keep
Yeah.
it.
And if you have a good idea, you just get in there and start doing it, right? And put it forward and the community kind of will see you and and it's not just with our DAO, it's with several DAOs that I've seen other projects, that have that kind of thing. It's like, okay, we put something out here. Now let's see where the community takes it through the DAO. And
Yeah,
it might take a completely different direction than what the original kind of founders intended, maybe, or thought of, not necessarily intended,
yeah,
but kind of
yeah,
envisioned, right?
yeah.
But then it's like, maybe this was the best way to do this, right? I couldn't have had that idea. Those,
Mhm.
founders might think, but somebody else came in and they saw something new and added something to it that was,
Perspective.
more, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah. No, it's great.
I like the synergy of it all. So, yeah, let me check real quickly,
Sure,
unless you have
sure.
something to say about more about well, actually, I'd like to ask
Okay.
just for our viewers' sake, if you're interested in technical writing, what do you think is like a good step to get into doing that?
Mm. Um, to start writing blogs on topics that you're interested in. Um, I think that the more content you make, the better you get at it. Like every piece that I write, I hope is my best piece. And looking back, it's like, oh, I wish I would have like used this technique or like rearranged these words in this way. I could have like clarified it like this, right? So, starting with something you're passionate about always makes work not feel like work. Um, so yeah, just start with something you like, write about it, see, it's like send a link to your friends, see if they understand it. And then start to apply that technical writing skill to test your knowledge in areas you want to grow in.
Yeah, that's good advice, and I think it's pretty much good for any art form or something that you have to kind of, because writing is obviously an art form, and even if it's for technical writing,
Yeah.
it's still an art. So just as much practice as you can get into something like that, and then people might wonder, okay, how do I get into technical writing for the Web3 space, the blockchain
Mhm.
space? There's people posting, job opportunities for this kind of thing all the time. And like we said,
Mhm.
it's a pretty open industry with merit-based kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So if you got work that you've done and you think, hey, or maybe if you don't think, hey, this is good enough to submit to people, but you've got some work,
Yes.
just submit it, see what happens, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And documentation within projects that you respect is always a good place to start, and then start to think about it in terms of like writing techniques. Like, what's the tone? What type of words are they choosing? What's the sentence structure like? Like, can I, from the reader's perspective, understand the intent of the author, right? Try to break it down into like as many categories as you can. What you think the audience was that they were writing to, what, even like what age are they? Where are they from? Like, what is this, standard US English? Is it UK English? Right?
Mm,
Or other dialectical stuff in languages if that are not English, if you're
right.
reading in other languages. It's cool.
Yeah, it is super cool. I'm gonna check the Twitter comments just for
Mm,
a second to see if anybody has mentioned anything they would like for us to answer
sure.
on our live call here. So I'm not seeing anything right now. We do have little rocket emojis. That feels good.
Nice. Thanks.
So there is somebody listening and commenting, which is
Cool.
great.
Thanks, y'all.
But yeah, I really, this might not have been directly blockchain related for our call today, but I think it's still good because this is something that I've talked about on previous calls where there's kind of a space for everybody in
Mhm.
Web3. If you're an artist, there's a space for you. If you're a musician, there's a space for you. If you want to code stuff, there's a space for you. If you're a writer, if you're a graphic designer, or you have previous art experience, you can get into graphic design, something like that. If you want to make content like this where it's live videos. I know a lot of people that are in the Web3 blockchain space that are like, I never want to be on a live stream video. And that's totally fine because you need people who want to do this kind of thing
Yeah.
to get in there.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about the DAO, and the decentralization is that, like, from anywhere, any work can be useful. So you can really commodify your skills and put it to work to bring something about that's really useful and cool.
And I think this seems to be kind of a underlying theme of some of these calls that I've done is like, even if you think you might not have a space here, but you're still interested,
Mhm.
you probably do have a space. You just
Yeah,
haven't realized that, oh, that thing that I can do that I really enjoy, oh, somebody wants that. Somebody
yeah,
wants me to be a part of their project, right? So
absolutely.
encouraging people just to kind of get out there. If there's a project that you like, let's say you like API 3, you can get on our Discord
Yeah.
and check out the forums and see, like, hey, maybe there is something for you to contribute to this project in one way or another.
Oh, yeah. Thank God for the internet. Like,
Right, right.
tied to your location anymore. And so somewhere in the world, your special skill will be valued. Um, and I think that it's like everyone's dream to be able to exercise their special skill and make a living off of it. Like,
Right.
your job shouldn't be like something that you dread or something that you do just out of like responsibility. Like, the fact that I get to write about technical topics and like learn every day is so cool.
Yeah. And like you said, you're not tied to your place anymore with this kind
Yep.
of global online work, especially with Web3 projects. I
Yeah.
mean, with API 3, we're all over the place. When I say, oh, yeah, I work for API 3, they're like, where's that
Where's that?
located? I'm
Like,
like, the
nowhere.
internet, like everywhere, right?
Ether.
Right. We're having this conversation right now on opposite sides of the globe, essentially. So, but we're still here and it's awesome. So
Yeah.
I really like the kind of decentralized nature of the fact that we can all work all over the place, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it gives me hope for a future where people aren't so dogmatic about national borders. Like,
Right.
fact that you can just connect with anyone and be grateful for the work that they're contributing to your project, like I think that's going to bring people together.
Oh, we do have a question off YouTube. So what topics are you most excited to write about at API 3?
Well, right now I'm working on a piece on QRNG versus VRF. And so getting to understand sort of the technicalities of how quantum random number generation works is super cool. Like the people at the ANU, Australian National University, have this gold box that holds a vacuum. And they shoot a laser through it. And I think they chose gold because it's very dense. And so it's less likely for particles to be able to like get through the structure. And so what they're measuring with this device is entropy. So like the frequency with which particles like phase in and out of existence. And then they translate that into binary that's used to generate random numbers or colors or whatever. And so what I'm most excited about writing about API 3 is just all the stuff I don't know, which at the moment is a lot.
And like we said, that's an exciting kind of prospect. Is like, wow, I don't know anything. This is great, you know?
Yeah.
And we actually had Dr. Tranter from ANU on a previous community call,
Cool. Nice.
and I got to talk with him actually for quite a while, even after the call, about all the quantum stuff that they're doing, because I really think this is also very exciting, the stuff that we can do.
Yeah.
But if any of our viewers are curious about what you just mentioned, the QRNG kind of gold box that they have, you can check out that previous community call that we did and listen to him talk about the specifics of how that machine works. Because I was also extremely curious, like how do you do that, right? How do you translate something that's like a physical or not physical particle into like data? That's
Well,
really cool.
Something that like is happening all around us that we're just totally unaware of.
Right. And that's awesome that they've been able to like catch it in a box basically and translate that into data that we can now use
So
on
useful.
chain. So
Yeah, true randomness. It's amazing.
yeah, I think it's crazy. It's who would have thought, right? Who would have thought we'd have this magic gold box, right?
Yeah.
So I think that unless you have another a little kind of closing remark about technical writing or anything that you're excited about.
The API 3 community is great. It was cool to see the response to the posting about this this community call on Twitter, and see, you know, everybody from around the world that they're supporting this project. I'm really grateful to be here, and to be learning and to be contributing and helping other people learn about what API 3 is doing.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the call today. I got to learn a little bit too about kind of things that might help me in what I do for API 3, you know, with the graphic design stuff. And I'm excited to see the articles that you're going to be writing for us. So I hope they'll help me learn.
Yeah, they definitely will.
Just a reminder for our viewers today that the call will be uploaded on our social media. So you'll be able to watch it on YouTube and Twitter again. If you are tuning into this at a later date than what we've done on the live stream, then hello, thank you for watching. And we will have a call again in a few weeks, and we'll have a new topic. I'm not quite sure what yet, but that is something that the community can provide input on as well. We still have question forms up on our community calls whenever we put an announcement out asking for topics that the community would like to see us talk about. So if you have any input on what you'd like to see, please drop us a comment in those questions, and I will see you in a few weeks. Bye.